I first experienced Souldiers in the weeks leading up to its initial release, and if technical difficulties hadn't postponed this review, my video on the game would be completely different right now. Over the weeks and months after the game's release, what was first a frustrating and extremely drawn-out experience had undergone sort of a metamorphosis, changing so drastically that I decided to play through from the beginning all over again. What I found was still the charming and challenging Metroidvania from before, but without some of those frustrations and balancing issues that soured the entire experience my first time around. So, after several delays, here's my final review on the 2D fantasy Metroidvania, Souldiers. Real quick, remember to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for all of your indie and horror gaming needs. Plus, hit that little bell icon to be notified every time I release a new video. This is a small channel, so every interaction makes a huge difference in my epic quest to slay YouTube's algorithm. Anyways, let's get right back into today's review. Souldiers, at heart, is a Metroidvania that takes light inspiration from Souls-likes and class-based RPGs. At the start of the game, you choose from 3 available character classes, each with their own stats and abilities. I was under the initial impression before starting this game that you'd be able to switch between the classes as you progress, but Souldiers instead locks you behind this decision for an entire playthrough, meaning that you'd have to run through the lengthy game's story 3 separate times to experience everything it has to offer. While this idea in theory would add more replayability and length to the game's already oppressive runtime, the only real difference between these characters is playstyle preference and unlockable abilities, not anything to do with the story itself. While it is a little disappointing that this decision doesn't do anything to change how the story plays out, that doesn't mean that this decision doesn't matter, as each of these characters comes with their own completely unique ways of attacking, their own special abilities, and separate skill trees to reflect these abilities. I tested all 3 of these classes, mostly the mage and the scout, and I can tell you that there are huge differences in how you tackle enemy types throughout the game. Moving on from the class system, the actual gameplay of Souldiers is probably exactly what you'd expect from a 2D fantasy Metroidvania. While that's definitely not bad in its own right, the game doesn't do a lot to make its own mark on the genre in any standout way. The combat boils down to typical attacking, dodging, and blocking, but Souldiers does have an elemental system that slightly mixes things up. As you progress in the game, you unlock these elemental runes that give you more elements to wield and switch between on the fly. Enemies also have strengths and weaknesses that can be exploited using this system, and while this does add depth to the combat, it's a shame that these elemental attacks don't actually change your attack style in any way, just giving your attacks a cosmetic difference. Aside from this, there are also several throwable items to help you out, but I found the system to be very underwhelming when compared to your normal arsenal of attacks, especially as they need to be recharged with a specific resource that you'll either find too much of or too little of depending on where you are. Thankfully, the combat itself feels pretty smooth, and the enemies have enough variety to keep you on your toes in every new area, but your patience will really be tested when it comes to some of the game's dungeons. Souldiers is essentially a series of large dungeon encounters separated by light overworld exploration in between. These dungeons are each structured around a main element and story arc, and offer their own unique sets of puzzles and challenges to reflect this. Perhaps the biggest aspect of the gameplay is the variation between these dungeons, as each area feels extremely unique in terms of enemy variants, environmental puzzles, and thematic visuals. No 2 sections of the game feel the same, and extra care is put into making sure each dungeon has its own mechanics to learn and adapt to, while scattering secrets around every corner for the more attentive players. While this feature stands out positively, it definitely isn't perfect. The issue with these dungeons that really weighed down on me over time had nothing to do with the content itself, it's just that most of them really overstay their welcome. This is due to a variety of factors, but mostly stems from a combination of the sheer length of some of these dungeons and the overwhelmingly maze-like layout of the maps that can leave you repeatedly clueless as to where to go next. A sizable chunk of my time in some of these dungeons was spent just backtracking and frantically checking for any missing spaces on my map because I had no idea where the game wanted me to be or what I needed to interact with. Here's a little example of what I mean from my personal experience. One of the dungeons had me fight through a large area that led to a dead end that didn't lead to anything else, so I backtracked and found the next section of story progression on a different branching path. But Then I got completely lost because there was nowhere new for me to go on the map. By pure accident, and after a lot of wasted time, I finally found out that I had to go back to this random dead end from before, with no indication whatsoever that this path was meant to be returned to in order to trigger the next part of the story and open up a new area. Moving away from the gameplay, I really wanted to talk about the visual side of Souldiers. The art is definitely the most polished aspect of the entire game, and it's easy to tell that a lot of care and love went into every pixel on the screen. Everything from the lively sprites to the environments is rendered in this extremely detailed pixel art style that really draws the player into the world. Backgrounds aren't just there to exist, they make this world feel alive and lived in. From the deep rotting pyramid chambers to the vibrant cityscapes, this world feels deeper than the 2D plane you're traveling on. Inhabiting these environments is a large cast of creatures and characters that are brought to life by their designs and animation. Even the most basic enemies give a sense of personality in the way that they fight, thanks to their uniquely crafted animations in both movement and attacking. It's really amazing just walking through the main city for the first time, seeing all of the background characters going about their lives while the environment itself is telling its own story. Overall, Souldiers is a solid metroidvania, but one that doesn't do enough to set itself apart from the countless games that have come before it. The visuals and variety throughout the game's length help to give it personality and flair, but the glaring issues with pacing and certain gameplay elements could turn players away before they even have the chance to experience all of it. Souldiers has all the elements of a good game, and many people will see it as such. It's just a shame that these issues and design flaws degraded my experience over time, even with the fixes put into place after the game's launch. This is still a game worth giving a shot if you're a big fan of the genre or are drawn to the game's beautiful art style, but the average gameplay combined with exhaustingly long areas will start to weigh on you the further you progress, and ultimately sour the overall experience. Again, please remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more indie and horror gaming content. I'm also live on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so follow me over there to see my schedule and get notified when we go live. I also have other social media nonsense and a Patreon where you can support my work for only $1 to get your name featured at the end of every video. Links to all of these things can be found in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.